Hey everybody, this is 4 Ice Counters coming to you with a video that I felt compelled to make after watching a deck profile from Shengping. He competed in one of the regionals recently and played Malice, and so as part of that profile, which I think you should check out, it's like 20 minutes long, which is kind of nice. It's not just like he doesn't just blow by the deck and make assumptions about what you should know about it. He very thoughtful analysis of the cards he chose to play, and also thoughtful analysis of a card he didn't play but mentioned. That card being Crossout Designator. My mind was sort of blown as someone who's coming back to the game after many years away, because my opinion of Crossout Designator was that it was a card that made sense to counter hand traps. It was a card that makes sense if you knew what your opponent was playing and you also intended to play those cards, like, oh, my opponent's going to play Ash Blossom. Well, I play Ash Blossom, so I'll run Crossout and, use that as a target to counter hand traps. And that was fine and good. Then Crossout was put on the limited list back in April, and as a one of, the card seemed to lose some luster. There are certain Yu-Gi-Oh content creators who continue to preach that you should put one in your main deck, which, to each their own. I'm not sure if that's what you should do, but there's cards like Crossout, Called by the Grave, Triple Tactics Talent that some people just believe you should play, that they're just so inherently powerful, you should have them in your deck, even if they're a one of. I'm not sure I feel that way, but what jumped out to me was the idea of Crossout as a side deck card for the mirror. Specifically, if you are playing a meta deck and anticipate playing a lot of mirror matches or a fair number of mirror matches, Crossout is an amazing tech choice for the mirror match. And I had never thought of it that way, even if it's really obvious to some people. The idea that I would be using Crossout's effect to declare like a starter or an extender from my deck, not just like a hand trap, it sort of opened my eyes to its utility, specifically in the deck I like to run currently, which is Maliss, or Maliss, Ignister Maliss, and then the application a card like Crossout could have in the mirror match if I were to face an opponent also playing Maliss. So I kind of want to talk through some details about the card, some statistics, and then sort of the application of the card in the mirror. First and foremost, right, Crossout Designator, it's a quick play spell that was released for the TCG back in October of 2021. The effect, which, even if you know what the effect is, I think it's good to just start with the baseline. You can declare one card name, banish one of that declared card from your main deck, and if you do, negate its effects as well as the activate effects and effects on the field of cards with the same original name until the end of this turn. You can only activate one Crossout Designator per turn. So, broadly speaking, Crossout Designator is not a popular card in most meta decks. I look up meta decks, not just tournament, but high-performing tournament level decks, but just in general, whether it's Yu-Gi-Oh! Pro deck, whether it's Road of the King, or even in the OCG, which I think it's kind of cool that a lot of OCG decks play the one of Crossout, even if it's not for mirror matches. But in the TCG, it's not a commonly played card, especially in most Maliss decks. Certainly not a common card that's being played in Maliss decks that are topping or winning regionals. Doesn't mean it's a bad card. It's just not seeing a lot of action, which is why I think it's sort of like a sneaky card or a little bit of a tech card that you could use to your advantage. Currently, you can only play one copy of Crossout Designator in your deck, as it went from 3 to 1 on the April 2025 ban and limited list. I think that had a major impact on how people viewed the card's utility. When you could run 3 of them and knew you had a good chance of opening it, especially if you were trying to counter hand traps or, make sure that you were able to play your turn uninterrupted, it seemed like a better card. Now that it's a one of, when you're going first, you only have a 12.5% chance of drawing it in your opening hand with a 40 card deck. That number will go down should you play anything above 40 cards. Going second, you only have a 15% chance of drawing it either in your opening hand or as your sixth card, barring, like anything that might thin your deck between your opponent's turn and your draw phase. So even though Crossout Designator has a very unique function, it can't really be replicated by any other card in your deck. The fact that it's a one of makes it maybe a little bit more of a cope type card. Maybe something that seems like a good idea, but in actuality doesn't have a lot of functionality. Because you think of cards like Called by the Grave that are also one of, and we're starting to see more and more players put that in their side deck, not have it in their main deck. Some decks just aren't playing it at all, but the vast majority of deck builders will include one copy of Called by in their main or side deck, even though that's also a one of. Typically, you're thinking of using that card when going first to negate a hand trap or something your opponent discards from hand as a quick effect. Crossout can serve a very similar purpose when going first, but the added utility, gives it that powerful effect of almost like an effect veiler or an imperm, or something even stronger, because you can really target, any card, as long as you have a copy of that card that you declare in your main deck, which is why I think my mind was sort of blown open when thinking about Crossout Designator as a card worth maining or siding when playing Maliss, specifically when thinking of the Maliss mirror. Now, the obvious application is that Crossout can negate Artifact Lancia. That's probably the most obvious use of the card. Just about every person on planet Earth is running 3 copies of Lancia in their side deck. So having a Crossout Designator as well as at least one copy of Lancia in your own deck gives you a chance to negate that card should you see it, should your opponent try to play it on you when you're going first. The applications that I think sort of open up the nasal passageway here, really really start breathing it in, is the thought that Designator could also be used in the Maliss mirror to negate the effect of, say, their normal summon. Opponent normal summon. This is now, you go first and you set Crossout. Well, you can chain Crossout to the activation of maybe a Dormouse effect or whatever normal summon, White Rabbit. Now, is that going to end their turn on the spot? No. Similar to how Infinite Impermanence and Effect Veiler are perhaps not as strong as they have been in other formats, Crossout Designator by itself might not seem like a card that will break a board or end an opponent's turn. But the mirror match is where I think the application can really shine, specifically thinking not just of normal summon cards and their effects, but the activated effects of special summon cards like Backup, Ad Ignister, or Wizard, cards that your opponent is playing maybe after you've disrupted their hand or disrupted their sequence. Having a Crossout Designator that would allow you to banish one of those cards from your deck and negate the effect of one of those powerful extenders could be quite valuable. And where things really get fun and funky is perhaps using a Crossout Designator to negate a Dominus Impulse, right? That's probably one of, if not, X-Bryziel and Dominus Impulse are probably the 2 most powerful cards in the format currently. If your deck can play Impulse, it should play Impulse. Yes, it's expensive. Not everyone at locals is going to have it. But, if you go to a regional or you go to any sort of case tournament, you're going to come across that card often. And the idea that your opponent thinks they're going to, cast a Dominus Impulse from hand, and then you can cross out it by banishing your own Impulse is not nothing. There's not a lot of easy ways to negate an Impulse. Designator is one of those ways if you're playing the mirror. And the 2 things that I think are the most fun to think about when it comes to Crossout Designator in the Maliss mirror is that by banishing a card from your main deck, let's say you use Crossout Designator to negate the effect of a Dormouse or a White Rabbit or Malice in the Mirror or one of the traps. Well, now on your turn, you have set yourself up for Heart Scripter, right? Specifically, Heart Scripter. You can target one of your banished Malice cards, shuffle it into the deck, and banish a card on the field. And this effect can't be negated while this card points to a monster. So a lot of times when going second with Malice, you're looking to enable a board in which you can target a banished Malice card. Well, Designator will banish one of your Malice cards if you target a Malice card in the mirror. And now you have a Malice card in your banish pile that you can target with Heart Scripter without all extra work. Simplify that, right? And then the other opportunity, if you're running Malice and you're playing the mirror, is you can use the banish card as target for March Hare, right? March Hare's effect, one of March Hare's effects, will allow you to return it or another Malice card, Malice name, to your hand. Well, if you banished a Malice card on the previous turn using Designator, or even earlier in the turn using Designator, now that card can be returned to hand with the effect of March Hare. So there's just a lot of utility, I think, negating Lancia, negating the effects of normal summons or special summons in the mirror, negating trap cards like Impulse or GWC 06, setting up your Heart Scripter, setting up your March Hare. These are incremental advantages that I just hadn't really thought of before. And now that I'm thinking about them, it really makes me think that Designator is a card to really consider at least playing in your side deck, thinking of it as a tech card for the mirror. If you're running other meta decks, Mitsurai Zeal or Mermail or something else, you might consider it in that. I don't know those decks as well, but really anything you might expect to play a mirror of, if you're running a meta deck and you go to regional, you're going to play the mirror more often than someone who brings a rogue deck. Crossout Designator is a lovely card to have in Malice, especially because of that banish effect, right? Can't stress enough that Crossout Designator's effect to banish one of the declared cards from your main deck has an added benefit to any deck that can make use of the banished card. Well, what deck makes better use of banished cards more than Malice right now? Let me know what you think in the comments. Let me know if you want more Malice-related content like this. Please like and subscribe, and I hope you have a great day.